outfit as inappropriate. And I agree, I think it's a really weird choice to wear a sheer dress with a thong where your entire ass is out at the premiere for a kids movie to an event that is attended by kids. I don't know what goober signed off on this wardrobe choice, but he was getting a little too goofy there. It is, I think, a pretty baffling decision. And speaking of baffling, you know what else is going to boggle your mind is the incredible Christmas sale at Gamersupps that starts today. You get a free gift with every tub, so go to gamersupps.gg and use code MOIST. There's a link in the description. Get some goof juice. It'll help elevate your game. Ice Spice might even fall in love with you if you do. And I want to immediately come in here and lat spread real quick and dispel a rumor that I'm seeing taken hold, an insidious fib that's a load of dirty barnacles that a lot of people are sharing as though it's the truth, where there are people unironically claiming that Ice Spice didn't wear this to an event that was attended by children. She wore this to a SpongeBob 18 plus only influencer event for the SpongeBob film. Even just saying that sentence burns my lips. Like, hey pal, did you just blow in from Stupid Town? You think there is a SpongeBob 18 plus only event? That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. What the truth is that she wore this to an event for the SpongeBob movie that was attended by influencers, but it was not exclusively for 18 plus. There's pictures of her in this outfit at this event with children, like this right here. Apparently that is a 15-year-old influencer that she took this photo with. There is even video where she is talking to a room about the SpongeBob film, and you can see a bunch of kids in the audience, and she is wearing this dress.
It's easier than ever to make a custom video ad, reach new customers, and grow your business with YouTube Ads AI-powered solutions. Get started today with YouTube Ads.
This shopping season, save over $390. Book a last-minute weekly stay. Book now on Vrbo.
Sorry, I'm out of breath. Yeah, enjoy it. I've never seen the film, so this will be my first time too.
There's a couple other clips of her talking, and you can see that there are kids there. So I don't know where this lie is coming from, that it's only 18 plus at the Ice Spice SpongeBob premiere event. That is the most outlandish statement ever. I don't know where that information came from. Maybe Plankton's trying to toss around a bunch of horseradish, but wherever it started, the genesis, it's not true. They're Schmeckeldorfing you with it. I don't think there's a chance for a misunderstanding where it's supposed to be an 18 plus only SpongeBob event, but they were letting kids in anyway with, like, their parental supervision. I doubt it. Because why would there even be an 18 plus SpongeBob event for the SpongeBob movie, which is a family-friendly children's film? Why would they host an exclusively adult-only SpongeBob event? That would be really confusing. That would be an interesting choice. But again, based on all the evidence I can see from her talking to this room, as well as like the pictures she took with kids, I think I could say with a high level of confidence that this was an event attended by children, and she decided to wear this outfit, which I do not think is appropriate here. I think it's a really weird, peculiar choice of dress for her for an event like this, a kids movie, a kids premiere. It's just not the time nor the place to be wearing a see-through dress and a thong, having your whole keister out. Like, imagine I was voicing a character in the new Bluey film, right? I'm playing Bluey in Bluey the Big Budget Blockbuster feature film, and I get invited out to the Bluey world premiere, and I scoot in sideways, get out of my car in a banana hammock, and I'm just screaming, "Bluey for life, yeah!" That'd be some freaky shit, because it's just not appropriate attire for a kid's event to be wearing some shit like that. And I've seen some delusional takes on this, by the way. I saw some people trying to argue that what she's wearing is very in line for the SpongeBob cartoon itself, where like Patrick will have his butt out, or like SpongeBob's butt, and it's like, well, what's the big deal if Ice Spice does it too with her tuchus? And I have to wonder if you need to be institutionalized if you're actually trying to argue that. That is such a crazy thing to compare a cartoon gag moment with butt to a real-life person going to a kids event with her ass out. And this is a performer who is well known for sexual content in the first place. I think it's a very odd fit to have her be in the film in the first place. I said that the second that song dropped, I thought it was odd that they choose Ice Spice to do the big guy pants okay stuff when one of Ice Spice's biggest shticks, like her main thing and something she herself talks about, is how overtly sexual she is in her lyricism, in her dancing, and in her attire. It is weird that they'd even choose Ice Spice in the first place for it. But even going beyond that, the fact that she still maintains that at a kid's premiere is just not appropriate. And it's not comparable to SpongeBob or Patrick having a gag moment with their butt. That is a crazy thing to try and compare a cartoon to real life like that. That is unhinged lunacy, and you need to be evaluated. And I also saw a lot of people saying, well, if you have an issue with this, you must have an issue with the beach, too, because there's girls in bikinis at the beach. What if a kid sees that at the beach, huh? Where's the outrage there? And that is also a weak, stupid argument. That is swimming attire at a place where swimming takes place. Let's say there's an Arthur event coming up and they want to get excited about Arthur coming back, so they bring out a bunch of kids to a big premiere event and they bring out their celebrity speaker and they come out wearing a bikini. That's inappropriate. That's weird. Why did they decide to wear a bikini to a kid's event? There's no swimming or anything taking place. That doesn't check out. That's fucking peculiar. That's inappropriate. It's just that simple. I don't think this is that deep. I don't see how there's any kind of like debate. You can easily just recognize that maybe dressing like this for a kid's movie and a kid's premiere event just doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not a good idea. And I saw people trying to argue that this is like one of her more modest fits, so she should be applauded for that. You're really going to sit there and try and tell me with a straight face that there is literally nothing else she can wear? It has to be like really revealing with her whole ass out type clothes? I find that hard to believe. Surely there were other wardrobe options.
To some extent, like, why the fuck did she do that?
Far more sense
to another extent, like, what else
anyway,
did people
just
expect?
A pretty wacky situation here that I wanted to yap about a little bit. That's about it. See ya.
The perfect gift sets for $35 and under from Sephora at Kohl's. I got this set of Villainage Glowy Lip Minis, Day Cactus Fruit 3-in-1 Styling Cream.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
I just love your smile.
Like you have an athletic genius with an IQ over 190, verified by multiple reliable sources.
Hey, let's stand over here.
We are honored to have him, considering how busy he is doing important work 24/7. Please welcome landlord activist Matan Evan.
Go.
Well, I don't know if the mic is on. I'm so excited to be here. Wow. It's like, I can't believe it. I'm here in the presence. It's just I'm so excited. I don't know if you can tell on my face. When they hit me up about being the MC of the event, I was so excited. I started running around my room. You know, I was a little nervous before the show, so I smoked a ton of meth. I'm not kidding, by the way. I know some people are laughing, but it's just such an honor to be here. I really couldn't keep calm the whole day, and I'm just so excited. Thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you guys. You know, I'm just so excited to be here.
W.
Again, thank you guys. I just want to say how excited
The idea
I am
that they
to
invited
be
him here is so
When
fucking
they called
wild.
me and told me
What were
that I was gonna be the
again, what were they
MC of the
expecting?
event, I really couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I never thought this would happen in my entire life. You know, I work every day, and this was always one of my goals, and I'm just so excited.
Boo. Boo. Boo.
Firstly, I just want to thank Trump for releasing the Epstein files. Unfortunately, they were only given to DC Drano and libs of TikTok. You know, these stupid liberals, they hate AI because they think it's going to take their job, whereas us conservatives, we love AI because it helps us do basic math. You know, looking around this room, I'm just picking this up, but nobody here looks young. You all look about 35. But that makes sense because with just a $10,000 purchase, you can become a lifetime member. That sounds like a load of bullshit. That guy looks like he's about 80. Maybe the club should be called the weird 35-year-old guys who think they are young but actually smell like shit.
He's reading the whole thing off
this
the
event, I had to plug my nose at one point with the napkin backstage, and then I had to hide in the bathroom because it smelled better even in there.
It's fine. I have to go soon.
One guy told me he was 105.
I'm streaming.
I guess that's young for a Republican.
I'll tell you later. Okay, yeah, cool.
But no, I'm just joking around. I really want to say that you guys are the real heroes. A bunch, well, yeah, let's give a round of applause for the heroes.
Are we good with the dinner, Rez?
I was just calling them about it.
A bunch of rich kids born into families protecting money from seeing those who need it. Why should they eat when you can have another car?
Can you film this? Thanks so much.
I have to go to the bathroom. Where's Andy Ogles? I hope he's not using the bathroom. Otherwise, you would have to call him Bathroom Ogles. Get it?
Ooh.
Thank you to one of today's sponsors, the Oxford Fish. All you have to do is use code NYYRC to get 5% extra charge on your next order. The Oxford Fish, the Michelin star, there's a small chance the fish will start dancing and you'll become the winner and the dancing fish one day too. Thank you to the Oxford Fish. What do young people like nowadays? Fortnite?
Uh-oh.
Somebody actually asked me to mention this earlier in case some people didn't know, but this is my manager, Viral Flooring. You know, when I got the call and I was just so excited to be here, of course I had to let him know he's my manager, he controls everything I do. And of course he was so excited. So yeah, I have to bring him here. It's not really my choice, but I'm just really glad that he's here. Can we give him a round of applause?
Uh-oh.
After this event, all of you young people will gather into groups to discuss SpongeBob in Fortnite. Otherwise, you may be removed from the event and banned from Young Republic's New York events in the future. SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants. By the way, Brian from, I don't know where he is, from the German BVDZ media said I wasn't gonna sing SpongeBob. Who's laughing now, Brian? I told you, didn't I? I told you I was the MC, and then when I got up here, I was gonna sing SpongeBob. He thought he was lying, but I told you, Brian, I'm gonna sing SpongeBob. I think he's over there. I tried to bring him on stage with me, but his handler said no, and then one of the members of the event said that he wasn't gonna be allowed out here. It's like, come on, can we get Brian on stage? Can we get Brian? Somebody go get Brian over there from the German media. Come get Brian. Somebody please come bring Brian and let's have him do a speech.
Hey, right now I'd rather be a fake Muslim than a stand-up comedian, am I right?
I want to give a quick shout out to some of the people here. Thank you to Jack Posobiec, Hasnan, Mr. Greedy, Biggie, and some of the others in that group. You are the future of America. Does anybody here have an iPhone 4 charger? I used to play Pet Hotel on my iPad when I was younger. Oh, that game was so much fun. I had a bat and a chicken, and they all lived in the house together. Man, that game was something. It was so much fun. Wow.
Yo, get your fuck off the airwaves.
Fuck you. Shut up, shut up. Shut your mouth. You can't sing.
Get the fuck off the airwaves.
You don't know the theme song
What is he talking
as well as I do. You don't know the theme song for SpongeBob, and you don't look young at all. You look about 60, my friend. The vice chairman, Nathan Berger, is here.
You should boo him.
They call him Burger for Brains because he's as useful as a burger.
This sucks, right?
He also has Asperger's. I've never met him. Yeah, let's give him a round of applause. Where's Brian from the German media? Can somebody to get him. I asked for him like 3 minutes ago. I know where he is. He's right over there in the press. He's with about 5 other Germans. One of them is a lady wearing red, and one of them is his handler, a little bit of a taller German guy. Can we get Brian from the German media to come up here and give a speech, please?
I didn't get the SpongeBob joke at all, did you? And he explained it to me in the crib early. He pulled it to my apartment. I don't get it. Do you?
Okay, I think I'm supposed to invite this next speaker on the stage about
Give him the
now.
250 because I paid them.
Let me go to the notes.
Take a look at the live conflict
However
map
English
behind me.
works.
We can see the geolocated flashpoints of the United States military's blockade and the strikes on drug trafficking vessels. America just ordered the 4th Fleet to execute a complete and total blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers that are entering and leaving Venezuela's coasts. This is a significant escalation and a historic move because the U.S. hasn't openly enforced a maritime blockade in more than 60 years now. I'm absolutely honestly shocked that we haven't seen an F-35 shoot down a drug Cessna with an AIM-9X Sidewinder yet. So why would the US military double down and make this move now? Because analysts believe it will deeply cut the Venezuelan government's main revenue stream of oil. Did I hear oil? This will increase the risk of political instability, increase the chances of protests and revolution in the nation, which is perfect for Washington's goals of regime change, without needing to go full boots on the ground. Never go full boots on the ground. Because since August, Operation Southern Spear has been ramping up. This gigantic armada of over a dozen US warships, stealth fighters, submarines, aircraft carrier, and 15,000 troops yelling "Oorah," having surrounded the northern coast. We know from looking at the open source intelligence tool marinetraffic.com, 30 sanctioned oil tankers are still remaining in port or have already turned around. These vessels are chilling because in mid-December, a team of U.S. Special Forces fast roped from 2 helicopters and seized one of these sanctioned oil tankers named Skipper. This helicopter insertion method is preferred when a ship refuses to stop and tries to run a blockade. Troops quickly seized the bridge of the ship and began sailing its over 1 million barrels of oil, $60 million worth of oil to the port of Houston, Texas. The White House stated that they're planning to launch more of these tactical tanker seizures. In retaliation, Venezuelan President Maduro ordered his navy to start escorting oil tankers into and out of port. This increases the risk of direct confrontation with U.S. troops now because they're the ones who are attempting to interdict these vessels at the same time. How is the Venezuelan Navy now attempting to break this blockade? And are those strikes against the drug boats even legal? And where is the U.S. preparing to strike on land? Before we get into that, if you're running a business, you can't manage everything yourself. And that's why I use today's sponsor, Odoo, as my all-in-one business management software. Odoo replaces all the different apps and websites that you're using right now, HR, accounting, inventory, and project tracking, all in one place. My favorite thing about Odoo is that it has everything my team needs in one clean, simple dashboard. It's perfect for my debilitating OCD. I like that Odoo is plug and play, so my team can track research, edits, animations, and deadlines. And this year, my resolution has been to improve how I run my business, which ultimately saves me time and money. And Odoo doesn't require a fancy degree in science to know how to use it. I think that's the term. So whether you're running a growing company, a small side hustle, renting stuff out, Odoo has a solution for every industry and size. It keeps everything here synced and moving in the same direction, like a grand strategy for business. Try Odoo free for 15 days, no credit card required, and your first app is free forever. Just click my link in the description or the pinned comment below and start making your business run like it's supposed to. General Kane and Hegseth are trying to put into action another, more direct and deadlier naval blockade that's happening on a different level. If we zoom in, enhance. Here we can see the location of every strike on narco-terrorist drug boats. They're hitting it from both sides, east and west. Coast Guard snipers are firing 50 cal rounds into narco-trafficker boat engines from moving helicopters. SEAL Team 6 has been overseeing 26 missile strikes by Hellfires that have blown up drug transport ships, killing nearly 100 traffickers. Well, what's happening here is a 2-layer blockade. Layer 1 is that sanctions layer where ships are seized, and layer 2 is this lethal interdiction. Taken together, they're turning the screw deeper and deeper on Maduro, trying to get him to immediately step down. And the reason this all matters is because this does not stop at the sea. This is where this stops just being a maritime story, because the US military is quickly positioning the tools needed for land strikes. In December, we observed the US deployed additional Growler electronic warfare jets capable of jamming Venezuelan air defense, and they repositioned a combat search and rescue helicopter unit that specializes specifically in extracting downed pilots over hostile territory. That's a major indicator of what is to come next. Setting the stage for this escalation we just saw in mid-December for the first time ever, the Trump administration designated Maduro's regime as a terrorist organization and labeled fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. These actions give the US government increased legal justification for using its full firepower to combat narco-terrorists. However, sources widely agree fentanyl does not usually transit from Venezuela. It mainly comes from Mexico and China. I think the reason many people in the United States still feel good about seeing drug boats destroyed is simple. After more than a decade of hundreds of thousands of Americans killed by drug trafficking, it can feel satisfying to watch traffickers face immediate, violent consequences. Hardly a person in the United States has had their life unaffected by drugs, so seeing summary execution of those even involved in it in any way, shape, or form can be cathartic, even when the boats aren't carrying fentanyl. This instinct for revenge is a deep part of human nature in war. There's also a deterrent logic at play. There's a message being sent in each missile to every cartel smuggler and also to the Venezuelan military that are watching. It says, you might be next. And it's undeniably a spectacle on top of that, a brutal one. The fact that the US military maintains an official video repository, the website DVids, has become like a live leak where it uploads real combat footage, including their kill cams of narco boats. To me, this is a surreal feature of modern warfare. It turns these lethal engagement and enforcements into something publicly consumable. And in that sense, to me, it resembles a modern day Roman Colosseum that people indulge in and are entertained by. It can feel like justice is being served, at least to some who are observing this. But not everyone views it that way, of course. There's an ongoing debate about the legality of these strikes. Whole think pieces are written about follow-on airstrikes that kill survivors after the initial disablement of their boats. But that debate rarely gains traction. Public sympathy isn't there. It's extraordinarily difficult to convince Americans to feel empathy for these drug traffickers, or to portray these vessels as innocent fishing boats when they're low-profile speed craft with multiple onboard engines, reinforced hulls, excess fuel containers, no legitimate fish on board, no tracking AIS, and crew actively attempting to flee armed interdiction. They operate at night through known trafficking corridors, attempting to outrun helicopters and naval patrols. If it looks like a duck and smokes crack like a duck, it's probably a narco-terrorist. But whether it's legal or not, or whether these are innocent fishermen or not, many Americans are feeling helpless to stop the scourge of drugs, and they want to see a take-no-prisoners approach. I'm not putting a moral judgment on that, I'm just explaining how many of the American public views this campaign. When we move over to analyzing the campaign over land, we can see how Venezuela's oil system is geographically boxed in the Orinoco heavy oil belt. Most production, refining, and export nodes are all along this coast. From a blockade perspective, this means the United States does not need to surround the whole country. It only needs to control a narrow set of sea lanes to exert disproportionate pressure. Wait, I'm having...
The Chevy Silverado, and best-in-class standard cargo bed volume, and securing your first big centerpiece. And it all comes together in a Chevrolet.
Where global insights meet media moments that matter. Where precise placements meet proven performance. Meet MasterCard Commerce Media.
Flashbacks of Libya in 2011. This is like the same exact geography, oil resources, dictator. Sometimes history rhymes, sometimes it straight up plagiarizes itself. Weapons of mass destruction. I feel like I'm in a fugue state right now. Except there isn't a large armed militia on the ground,
someone who
like in Libya.
Trump campaigned on I knew all the quagmires in the Middle East were a bad idea.
Three main types.
Anyway, quagmire in South America.
From far away choke points in open seas, and then there's close blockades that put warships directly outside enemy ports to physically stop them, like the US U.S. quarantine of Cuba in 1962 was effectively a close blockade. Then there are selective blockades which target specific cargo through enforcing and stopping anything that's sanctioned, like this one. Okay, that's important info. Several oil tankers have already sailed from Venezuela toward Asia, with a naval escort protecting them. In fact, 80% of this sanctioned oil ends up heading to China. However, according to the New York Times, so far none of these escorted vessels are actually on the naughty list of sanctioned tankers, so it's kind of an empty threat so far. Does that mean Maduro is bluffing? Is he playing coy? That's scamp. It's a concern because Venezuela uses a 2,500-ton Mariscal Sucre class frigate and a Paglo patrol vessel class for these kind of escort missions. Even in poor maintenance, their SAM missiles and 76mm cannon pose a threat to helicopters that are nearby. Its Automat anti-ship missile could also cause serious damage, but firing one at the US Navy would be a good way to instantly get deleted. And the Maritime Security Response Team have tricks up their sleeve, including electronic warfare jamming that allow them to get to these vessels and board them anyway. It's vital for Maduro's survival to keep that dark fleet of sanctioned ships delivering oil to their customers, because 70% of the country's oil exports rely on it, which will now be choked off. This means at least $8 billion in revenue per year in oil it's been sanctioned by the Treasury Department. We're talking about a huge amount. To put that into context, that's like 10% or more of Venezuela's total GDP. There are over 1,000 rogue oil tankers from Russia, Venezuela, North Korea, and Iran that have been getting around sanctions this way for years. What they do is they fly different countries' flags in an attempt to hide their actual country of origin, and they issue false, spoofed transponder readings of their GPS location. Or they turn transponders off entirely to hide their vessel's true location. This way, they're less likely to be stopped or inspected. They launder their oil to other tankers as well. Stopping this fleet has the goal of draining Venezuela's oil revenues, because this is their whole lifeline of their economy. And Maduro made a public statement that the blockade is, quote, a shameless robbery and an act of international piracy. This is more like technically a partial blockade, or more of a quarantine, if you will, if we're splitting the hairs of semantics here, because merchant ships and commercial tankers will continue to be able to pass through and trade to and from Venezuela's coast for now. PDVSA is the state-owned oil company in Venezuela, and they made a statement about the naval escorts saying, quote, their ships sail with full security, technical support, and operational guarantees in legitimate exercise of their rights to free navigation. Meanwhile, U.S. officials are looking into options on how to respond to these naval escort ships that Venezuela is sending out. One of the easiest ways is to seize tankers outside Venezuelan territorial waters. These combat ships cannot operate far outside of their coasts without logistical support, so the oil tankers can be stopped on their way to China and yoinked up. If an escort ship were to try to prevent seizure of a ship by firing at an American helicopter with a boarding crew, that would be the perfect casus belli the US government's looking for to launch a massive retaliation attack.
Casus belli.
That's a fancy word for I'm totally justified in killing people now. Take a look at this population density map of Venezuela. People are overwhelmingly concentrated along the northern coastal belt. The main cities, including the capital in Caracas, form a continuous strip of high human density. Any strike here carries increased risk of collateral damage, which would be no bueno. However, this geography is an advantage to US bombers because they don't have to travel over vast distances of land to reach key targets, which would expose them to air defense. This strongly incentivizes precision, standoff weapons, and maritime delivered effects instead of any kind of deep ground operation. This diagram here shows Venezuela's key energy production power facilities that generate their electricity, also all located in the north near the shore. The private intelligence company RAIN, their analysts assess that the US will likely strike ground targets in Venezuela, especially cartel camps, airstrips, ports, warehouses, and bases. Reports from Washington show that the US military is positioning for precision strikes on drug trafficking routes, which are not protected by air defense. Ian Ellis Jones on X created a geolocated map of all military targets in the country, and we can see instantly that the military air bases and naval facilities, their command and control nodes, and high-value air defense all sit along this northern coastal arc. Caracas is where the Ministry of Defense headquarters is located, their intelligence service, aviation command, it's all located in this one single point of failure. failure. Didn't anyone tell you not to put all your eggs in one basket? Even limited degradation here would have ripple effects outward. Large gaps in air defense remain inland and in the south. The important thing to see here is that Maduro is not able to absorb pressure. The regime clings to a narrow coastal spine with no defense in depth. From a defensive perspective, it's unfavorable. However, the vast nation of 350,000 square miles, made up of jungles and mountains, are also unforgiving to ground invasions. The southern half of the country is almost empty by comparison. Extremely low population density here, with little strategic value and very limited infrastructure. The south of the nation is made up of mostly difficult terrain, it's dense rainforests. It's actually beautiful. I wish I could go there one day if Maduro didn't extradite me to Russia. But this terrain makes much of the country inaccessible. On the other hand, the south of the nation is where all of the narco trafficking happens, because here on the Colombian-Venezuelan border is where cocaine is moved through the nation. Venezuelan military units at these checkpoints charge fees and provide safe passage for it. We call that in New Jersey protection money. From there, it's shipped to temporary airfields and flown north to the Caribbean or Central America. The drugs are also shipped to ports in the north, and then they are put on speedboats to head up north from there. The pressure remains on, as we can see 5 of the American F-18 fighter jets and a radar aircraft are now routinely flying right next to the nation's shores with their transponders purposely turned on. On Flight 24 tracker, we can see that they're flying in these tight 360-degree circles within visible distance of the shores near Caracas. And one of the main people to know here, who's a key figure in planning and executing these aircraft missions, is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane. When asked how he's advising the president on Venezuela, he said, quote, "The Joint Chiefs of Staff job is to present the range of military options that this president should consider, with all the secondary and tertiary considerations that go into those options, so that a president can make whatever decision he wants to make, and then we deliver." It's easy to get this mixed up, but the chairman of the Joint Chiefs does not actually command any forces. His job is to purely create strategy and advise military options. And it's interesting how he notes that he's telling the president about possible second and third degree reactions here, meaning possible blowback from any considerations. However, the other key figure in this conflict that you need to know is Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. He's in the direct chain of command, and his role is to advise on policy and also executes orders on behalf of the president. His job is also to be sort of the face and voice of these missions in public, and he said, quote, "This mission defends our homeland, removes narco-terrorists from our hemisphere, and secures our homeland from the drugs that are killing our people," end quote. Where is this headed from here? Analysts and private intelligence at RAIN have assessed that President Nicolas Maduro will likely remain in power in 2026 unless a strike hits him or there's a large ground campaign, which they believe is unlikely. They assess that the regime will likely retain sufficient support within the security apparatus to hold on to power. This would make kinetic strikes against government buildings and other political targets in Caracas more likely, though. Beyond Venezuela, Washington is also likely to target cartels in border areas or isolated regions of Mexico and Colombia, and they believe this will initially be done while seeking the agreement of these countries' governments. They also note that as nations vote in conservative powers, this ideological alignment will help facilitate U.S. military action across Latin America. Once sanctions turn into seizures, seizures turns into strikes, we're already climbing the escalation ladder. The only question left is who blinks first. If you like this video, watch this one on the U.S. Navy's $1.6 trillion plan to defeat China and rebuild their fleet. I'm your average infantryman, Chris Cappy, ending transmission. And have a happy Christmas and New Year coming up. But I'll be back before then.
Need 30 AP. I think ensues. It's 25, of course. That tracks, that tracks.
And that is the worst terrorist attack in Australia's history.
Sadly, I was not surprised. Australian authorities have a lot to answer for.
Jonathan is a spokesperson for the IDF.
No, he's not anymore.
He has been directly responsible for much murder of Palestinians, whether it was after October 7th or before.
Since you're half Palestinian, I can understand your frustration, because you and your forefathers had an
Can you
opportunity
kill the ADC for the
to
love of
escape.
God?
And you and your forefathers missed that opportunity.
I will not allow the tragedy of these innocent victims in Bondi Beach to be politicized.
Oh, I just got outplayed so hard by an AP Twitch.
Has happened long before the 7th of October.
An early game,
massacre and
AP
before this
Twitch.
war.
Many people feel that the lives of Jews around the world have been made less safe by the actions of the Israeli government. I simply wonder if you, as a government, have considered the actions you've been taking. The atrocity on Bondi Beach this weekend was a heinous anti-Semitic terrorist attack perpetrated against innocent people by extremists who hated them for their faith. There's near universal condemnation for that. As with any tragedy, there is a great deal of disagreement about how we should collectively respond and what it tells us about where we are as a culture. Many prominent people, including former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott, point the finger at Western governments which rush to recognise the Palestinian state and tolerated extremism as they see it at anti-Israel protests.
I think there's been an error somewhere for this guy to have had so many guns, but in the end, it's the mindset behind the trigger, so to speak, that's the problem, not the trigger itself. I mean, it's this rampant Jew hatred. It's this sense that somehow it's okay if you're a Muslim to say, oh, Jews should be killed. That's what needs to change.
Others have argued that by the very same logic, the Israeli government is culpable for the mass suffering it's inflicted on Gaza. Attention is turning again to immigration policies and whether multiculture, and Muslim culture in particular, could ever work in the West. We'll debate all of these issues shortly, but we begin with Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister, Sharon Haskell, who joins me now. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Hello, Piers.
I was watching, I was on social media actually, on Sunday morning in London when the first reports began to come in from Bondi Beach. And it says something about the times we live in now, that when I heard that there were gunmen opening fire on people on Bondi Beach, my first thought was, oh God, I hope it's not Jewish people. Because I know there's a lot of Jewish people who live in Sydney, who like to go to Bondi, a lot of people in Melbourne as well, but in fact most Australian Jews live in those two cities. And very quickly it became clear there was a Hanukkah festival, that there were families, and that these shooters deliberately targeted them. And it was an appalling anti-Semitic attack on Jewish people because they were Jews. There's no other way to describe what has happened. As a senior member of the Israel government, as a Jew yourself, what was your reaction? Because I was horrified, and I'm not Jewish.
Well, I think every single human being, every decent human being should be shocked to its core. I mean, those sights, those images are heartbreaking. This is a tragedy. This is a Jewish tragedy, an Australian tragedy. It's these are children, elderly Holocaust survivors who went to celebrate the holiday. Thousands of people from the Jewish community gathering together to light candles together, and children to play with dreidels and to dance to music. And those two monsters, those two terrorists came with hunting guns to hunt for Jews. That's the reality. And it is heartbreaking to see it. And I have to say that not just as a representative of the only Jewish state in the world where we feel responsibility for Jewish community, but this is a personal one as well. The first images that came to me were from my own friends in Bondi, in Tamarama, in Sydney. I don't know if you know that, Pierce, but I used to live in Sydney for 6 wonderful years.
Right.
Australia is one of the most wonderful places. I worked at the Bondi Vet. I surfed in Bondi Beach hundreds of times, went to celebrations with the Chabad House. This used to be one of the most protected places for Jews. This is my community. This is my friends, my relatives. And to get those messages from them and the images, it really shook me to the core. It's absolutely heartbreaking. It's a tragedy. But I must say as well, Piers, this is not a surprise. It's not a surprise at all.
Well, there have been an increasing number of anti-Semitic incidents in Australia since October the 7th. That is indisputable. There's been a rise of that kind. Obviously, nothing on the scale of this, but there have been enough warning red flags for people in the Jewish community and in the Israeli government, including Benjamin Netanyahu, to raise alarm bells about what the government in Israel, and you can obviously speak for them now, what they have seen as a lax attitude to this issue by the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and his government. So explain why the Israeli government feels, as you have put it, betrayed.
At Gibson's, we're committed to keeping our customers free of heating headaches throughout Northeast Indiana, Northwest Ohio, and Southern Michigan. Family owned and operated, and backed by over 40 years of experience, we know how to handle any heating issue in your home, from minor issues to major repairs. Not only will we get the job done right the first time, we'll also treat you with the respect and care you deserve. Call Gibson's Heating and Plumbing today, your neighborhood home improvement specialist since 1983.
Well, it started even in the first few days, you know? Just 2 days after the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, where we were still mourning and burying our dead who were, you know, entire families were burnt alive, little girls were raped, trying to pick the pieces together. On the 9th of October, there were marches in Sydney that celebrated that massacre, where people were chanting on the steps of the Sydney Opera House to gas the Jews, fuck the Jews, all these crazy slogans that call for the death of Jews. You know, this have emboldened them to go more publicly and to call for violence and killing of the Jewish community in Sydney. And then it continued for 2 years when they called to globalize the Intifada. When you say to globalize the Intifada, the Bondi massacre, this is what it means. It means to bring that hatred, that violence, those massacre, beheading people, what we've seen during the Intifada, and to bring them to London and to Sydney and to New York and to Toronto. And that's what it actually means. And unfortunately, during these demonstrations and those chants to kill Jews, no one was arrested. These are hate crimes. This is call for death. No one was prosecuted, no warning. So what message do you think that actually sent to those radical people who were seeking and chanting to kill Jews?
Let me ask you, if I may, a difficult question. It is a difficult question, but it's one that I have raised a lot this year since I've become increasingly critical of the Israeli government war strategy in Gaza, and particularly on the civilian death toll, and particularly of children. And I've done that with the context of, from after October the 7th, I was incredibly supportive of Israel's right to defend itself, and will always defend a country's right to defend itself after such an appalling attack. But there is a belief that in the last year in particular, by going, as many people see it, way over the top in what it's done in Gaza, by not allowing foreign journalists in to even see what's happening, with the slaughter, the devastation and so on, that the Israeli government has made Israel, and therefore, by association, Jewish people, more and more vulnerable to hatred, to dislike, to opprobrium and so on, as a result of the consequences of the Israeli government actions. Now, to me, there's no defense for that, but nor can it be denied that that may be part of what is happening, is that people are either genuinely enraged by what the Israeli government's been doing, to the extent where they believe this kind of thing is justified. I don't think it is. Or they are using it as an excuse. Do you, as a member of the Israeli government, have any qualms about the scale of what's been going on in Gaza, and whether that has in any way contributed to this anti-Israel and conflating into anti-Jewish sentiment around the world?
So I want to ask you a couple of questions in regards to that. The first one is, how the hell does murdering an innocent 10-year-old girl in Bondi Beach, helping, contributing, has anything to do with that?
Well, it doesn't,
okay?
but that's not my question. My question is whether you...
And the second one is...
No, but that's not my question. Obviously, as I said repeatedly, when I frame my question, with respect though, listen, just to be clear again, with respect, I didn't say that I believe this myself, but I have raised this as a concern that I believed that the safety of Jewish people around the world was potentially being endangered by the continued way that the Israeli government was prosecuting this war and the way it was doing it. And I simply ask you, as a member of that government, are you comfortable that everything that you've done in the last year in particular has made Jews safe around the world?
I'll tell you this, Pierce. The first thing is that anti-Semitism, okay, and the rise of anti-Semitism has happened long before the 7th of October massacre and before this war. Jews were targeted, synagogues were targeted, Jews were attacked. There's a rise of anti-Semitism and a huge one during the last decades. Has there's been a massive increase since the 7th of October? Yes. Even, you know, it took us 3 weeks before we actually set foot in Gaza and set operation to bring our hostages back. And during those 3 weeks, Jewish communities were already targeted. There were already celebrations of killing of Jews in the streets of Austin, Texas, and Paris, and Toronto, and so many other cities. And unfortunately, the 7th of October have emboldened the self-confidence of many of those extremists that it is a possible target to exterminate Jews all around the world. And I'll tell you this, yes, the conflict here, it's not about a territory. It is a religious and a cultural conflict at the core of it. And it is radical Islamists fighting against the values that Israel's represent: freedom, liberty, democracy, women's rights, freedom of expression, and so many more. And this is the real fight, and that's the real reason why it's coming into the streets of Sydney and the streets of London, whether it's Manchester or Paris or Bondi Beach. That's the real reason. And that's what we really have to have a sincere conversation about. Now, you're talking about Israel and how they operate. Is Israel perfect? No. It's a war, Pierce. A war is a terrible thing. It's an ugly thing. We never wanted this war. This war was forced on us on the 7th of October with some of the most monstrous actions that were committed against our brothers and sisters, where they were holding for more than 2 years our family members, where they executed in the most horrible way.
But all of that, you see, I would agree with you, but I would agree with you that all of that is, listen, as I said at the time, in real time, all of that is outrageous and horrific and appalling. And I make no denial of anything you've just been saying. But the but is an important but, which is that many people feel that by killing over 70,000 people now, including over 20,000 children reportedly, by blowing to pieces 75–80% of Gaza itself, by waging a 3-month blockade of much of the food and aid and so on in the early part of this year. But through these actions, many people feel that the lives of Jews around the world have been made less safe by the actions of the Israeli government. So before I let you go, I simply wonder if you, as a government, have considered that potential of the actions you've been taking.
So the first thing, look, a war is a difficult thing. It's a horrible thing. There's no war without casualties. It's the most violent way to resolve a dispute. And that's why Israel have done everything in its capability to try and avoid a war. And this war was forced on us. More so, whenever there was a diplomatic path for Israel to try and reach a ceasefire or a deal to return our hostages, to disarm Hamas, Israel always chose this path. It was only when we had no other choice that we chose military means. And if you want to tell me there is any war in the world, whether the UK can conduct it, or America, or Pakistan, I don't know, that they can conduct a war without any casualties, I tell you, it's impossible.
You know the difference. The difference I would say. No, you're talking to somebody who opposed. I led the campaign against the Iraq War in the UK running one of the papers here. So I disagree with what my own government has done in warfare from time to time, and I simultaneously agree with them about other things. But I just feel that I've been increasingly concerned about the safety of Jewish people around the world, and I feel, well, I'm very glad, put it this way, that there is a ceasefire now, and that this has not got worse.
I'll say this. If I look back throughout history, the Jews were always a symptom for a much deeper problem and disease that has been spreading. Even if you look on the Holocaust and everything that had happened there, and how they tried to exterminate Jews. How many countries were conquered in the process? How many people died in the pursuit of the extermination of the Jews by the Nazis? How many people paid the price? When I look on my own family story, like my mom's from Morocco, and almost a million Jews, Arab Jews from Morocco, Algeria, Lebanon, Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, where we were expelled, where there were pogroms, we were murdered, there were, the Farhud pogroms, where women were raped, and we were expelled from our homelands. Who are now, when there's no Jews in those countries, who are now the most persecuted minorities? It's Christians, it's Kurdish, it's Yazidis, it's all of these minorities. It's a far deeper problem. And what you see here now, with that anti-Semitism, those marches in London or Sydney, and you see them marching in support of terrorist organization, of Hamas. You see them waving
Well, I think what I would say, look, I've got to...
One second.
Okay.
I just want to finish my point, please. So when you see them waving those flags, you see them also burning the British flag. You see them burning the Australian flag. There's a deep hatred to everything that Israel represents in the Middle East. And this symptom of anti-Semitism is an indication of something far deeper that is happening in Western democracy. This is a war between radical Islam and the values that we actually represent. And so, yes, since the 7th of October, there has been a rise of anti-Semitism. You've seen our enemies, which many of them, all of them, are extremist terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah and ISIS and many others, who have more confidence whether to operate in Africa or in Europe or in Australia, because of also the actions or the non-actions of Western democracy or of the international community.
Okay, look, I've got to leave it there. Sharon Haskell, I really appreciate you joining me. I mean, again, I would simply repeat that what people are concerned about is that the scale of Israel's response in Gaza has been contributing to the rise in anti-Semitism. I don't know if that's correct or not. I know it's what a lot of people fear. And as somebody who has a lot of Jewish friends, who loves Jewish people, who has always supported the state of Israel and always will, that concerns me, and it's not a justification for terrorism, which is despicable and unacceptable and should never happen. But I do think that it cannot be ignored in the debate, is the scale of what Israel's government has done in Gaza has, I think, made it more difficult for Jewish people around the world. But I've got to leave it there. I appreciate you joining me in. I would say that to all the Jewish community around the world, it must be terrifying when this kind of attack happens on Jewish people because of their faith, as we saw in Bondi, and my heart goes out to all Jews everywhere for what happened, and I want to make that completely clear.
Thank you, Pierce. I just want to say, first of all, it is okay to criticize Israel. We can discuss it. We can debate it. It's okay. Israel has made mistake, but not intentionally. If you look on Israel's level, the threshold that we've reached during this war, no other war in urban history or even conflict that you have now have reached the accuracy or the attempt to try and avoid civilian casualty. Every civilian casualty is a tragedy, but you cannot excuse this war with what is happening and the rise of anti-Semitism and the attacks on Jewish communities around the world.
I hear you. Deputy Foreign Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, to my panel now, and I'm also joined by the host of Trigger with Samara Gill. Samara Gill, the journalist and commentator Sami Hamdi, British-Palestinian commentator Kieran Andrew, retired Lieutenant Colonel and IDF spokesman Jonathan Conrickers, and New York Post columnist and host of Pod Force One, Miranda Devine. Well, Miranda, great to have you back on Uncensored. Interesting interview I had there with the Deputy Foreign Minister of Israel. What do you think of that question? I mean, again, I have to preface it by saying that nothing excuses the disgusting terror attack we saw in Bondi Beach. You're Australian. I'm sure you felt very personally about this. Does anything that the Israeli government has done in the war in Gaza, do you think, been a contributing factor to the rising anti-Semitism around the world?
You can use this simple calculator from Rocket Mortgage to estimate how much cash you can get from your home. You don't need a HELOC to get money out of your home. Actually, homeowners are now turning to cash-out refinances for a more responsible way to access cash. Cash-out refinancing lets you pull money out of your home without getting a second mortgage. And for any planners out there, this is great because unlike a HELOC, this option comes with a fixed interest rate, so you don't have to worry about your monthly payments fluctuating. You can use this simple calculator from Rocket Mortgage to estimate how much cash you can get from your home. I'll link that right here for you to get started.
Right now at Papa John's, create your own pizza for only $9.99. Any toppings on original, thin, or New York style crust. All $9.99. Usually a pizza with no artificial flavors, colors, or additives costs more. But Papa John's knows you deserve better. Order now.
You've seen their vibrant ads illuminating billboards and train stations for many years. Now it's time you actually saw the show. Shen Yun is celebrating its 20th anniversary, a dazzling run which has seen iconic performances at iconic venues like the Kennedy Centre, the London Coliseum and the Sydney Opera House. Each season tours to more than 200 cities worldwide. You'll see classical Chinese dance, a live orchestra and stunning animated backdrops which bring to life 5,000 years of Chinese civilization. World-class performers in flawless costumes tell a story of myths, legends, warriors and heavenly realms, all set to stunning music. It's been described as inspiring, uplifting and life-affirming. And if you're looking for an unforgettable gift for your family, I really recommend that you check it out. Visit shenyun.com/peers to waive all ticketing fees when you order. That's shenyun.com/peers.
Well, I mean, this is what we hear, but honestly, I'm not going to entertain any excuses for terrorism. There is no excuse. And once you go down that track of saying, oh, well, you know, they had it coming to them and it's their fault because their government, you are playing into the hands of the terrorists and rewarding them for the utter mayhem and bloodshed that destroyed a lovely party in Bondi Beach, killed a 10-year-old girl, killed, 14 other people at least, 15, I think, and has left Australia just reeling. I mean, that is the worst terrorist attack in Australia's history. And it's Sydney and Bondi Beach are just such peaceful places for a war a world away to come to the shores of Australia is beyond shocking, and you cannot excuse it in any way.
No, I completely agree with that. The complexity, of course, of the narrative around this attack is that many people reacted, as they always do when there's an attack by Islamist extremists, by saying we've got to get all the Muslims out. This is the problem. It's about Islam as a religion. There's too many of them are radicalized. They hate the West. They want to kill everybody. And then we discover that the hero, who is one of the great heroes that I've ever seen in any situation ever, this guy, who just risks his life, and apparently his last words to the people he's with was, I think I'm going to die, please tell my family I did this to save others, or something like that. Incredible. But goes and risks his life, gets shot repeatedly in the process, is thankfully, we think, going to be okay. He's in hospital. But he's not just an Australian hero, he's a global. I think I'm going to die, risks. And then situation ever, this guy, who just risks his life, and apparently his last words to the people he's with was, I think I'm going to die, please tell my family I did this to save others, or something like that. Incredible. But goes and risks his life, gets shot repeatedly in the process, is thankfully, we think, going to be okay. He's in
That's
hospital.
crazy. I didn't know he got
he's
shot.
Not just an Australian hero, he's
I don't know
a
how I missed
global
that.
hero. And yet he's Ahmed Al-Ahmed. He's came from Syria as an immigrant to Australia. He's a Muslim himself. And so, if you have a kick all the Muslims out view of this, well, what do you do about the hero? You save so many lives, because he's the very type of immigrant from a Muslim country like Syria that many of those who espouse that view would say shouldn't have been allowed in Australia in the first place.
Yes, and that's really the wonderful silver lining on this story, is that the heroism of that man, and
No
what a
shot.
twist that he is Muslim. And it's, I mean, it's almost meant to be, so that that sort of reflex reaction, which people often have after these terrorist attacks by Islamists, just is softened. And, you know, Australia is a country of immigrants, the highest rate of immigration, in fact, in the world, except perhaps Canada. And there are lots of Muslims there. Australians know them in Sydney as their neighbours. This guy runs a fruit store. And they have good feelings towards them. And I think that Australians are sophisticated enough now to understand, and do understand, that the sort of fundamental Islam that is bred in radicalised mosques by radicalised imams and comes in, seeps in that toxin from the internet, is just as frightening to regular Muslims living in Sydney, going about their life, as it is to non-Muslims.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good part of the story, I think.
It was an amazing thing to watch, and I mean, already several $1 million, I think, have been raised in a GoFundMe for him, including by leading Jews in America like Bill Ackman, which is it's an amazing part of this story and a heartwarming part of a terrible, terrible atrocity. All right, Kieran Andreou, you listened there to the Deputy Foreign Minister. Didn't really want to answer the question I was making, which I kept making sure she understood was not about any justification for the terror attack, but about whether the rising sentiment of anti-Semitism around the world, which is a terrible scourge on society and very threatening to the 15 million Jews who live on this planet, whether the actions of the Israeli government have made it more or less safe to be Jewish around the world. What do you think?
Well, first of all, listening to her was pretty difficult because the vast majority of what she said was a tissue of lies. But as to your specific point, look, I'd make two immediate points, Piers. Number one, responsibility for what happened, the heinous attack, it lies primarily with the two individuals, twisted, psychotic, anti-Semitic individuals who carried out that disgusting attack. Let's just say that right off the bat, because they are directly responsible for what happened. Then we move to the point you make about the state of Israel. What I would say is this, you know, those of us who care about all life genuinely and equally, and those of us who have advocated for the rights of people in Gaza, the rights of Palestinians everywhere, and the right of people in Gaza to not suffer a genocide, have said for a very long time that there is a clear distinction between Jewishness and Zionism, that there is a clear distinction between Jewishness and the State of Israel, and that the State of Israel does not act on behalf of or speak on behalf of all Jews, by absolutely no means. It is the State of Israel and its outriders.
Well, do you mean the government? I mean, because if you say the State of Israel, that is the whole of Israel, right? So I presume what you're saying is that whatever the current government is at any given time, a bit like the government in the UK or the government in America, doesn't necessarily represent more than a slight majority of the country, right? If they win an election, maybe nearly half the country votes against them. So is that what you're saying? Because when you say the State of Israel all the time, you could be implying all of Israel.
Well, OK, here we come to a distinction, Piers, because I watch your show regularly and I know that you often want to make the distinction between the government and the state, and that's fair enough. So I'm happy to say, for the context in this conversation, the government, but I would just point out to you, and maybe this is a conversation for another time, that the State of Israel has always been a settler colonial project, and that every government has always subscribed to the view that the Palestinians are a nuisance that need to be removed. But we can discuss that another time.
Wait, but Kieran, it's actually this mentality that you just put on display. It's this mentality that is not separating the people and the state as to why the terrorist attack happened.
I don't intend to interrupt you.
I
just want to finish my last point.
Finish your point, then Samara can respond.
The State of Israel, or let's say the government of Israel, and successive governments of Israel, because I can find you evidence of every single government in Israel saying this, tries to conflate Judaism, Jewishness with Israel. And so when the government of Israel commits acts of genocide, of course, that then
Nothing beats spending time outside. Whether you're heading to the lake, the campground, or your own backyard, Camping World has everything you need in stock.
Opens the ground, opens the space for psychotic, deranged anti-Semites to say, look, even the government of Israel is saying it, they are one and the same. We know they're not one and the same. But as I repeat my initial point, responsibility lies with the individuals who carried out this atrocity.
OK, Samara.
This type of attack doesn't just happen overnight. Australia was at a boiling point because of months, give it years, of unchecked anti-Semitism that was happening on the streets. The Prime Minister was remaining pretty silent about it until today. And this is now what's happened. You don't just grab a gun and start shooting Jews like fish in a barrel because you're a psycho and you just feel like it. This is sort of the amalgamation of a really dark and insidious Islamic extremism that has kind of come into Australia and started rotting it. I mean, I can't think of a more Australian place for something so un-Australian to happen. And it's just ridiculous that you would say, oh, there's no difference between the state and the people. That is precisely what has happened, where they have bunched the state and the people together, and now children are dead, Kieran.
Can I come back on that just briefly? I'm saying the opposite to you. I'm saying, first of all, that there is a clear distinction between the state of Israel. It is a state. And the individuals that maybe live in that state or identify as Israeli in the world or are Jewish. There is a distinction. Your point is that there is no distinction, that Zionism is Judaism and vice versa.
Zionism just means believing in the right for Israel to exist. I mean, I don't want to go over it again and again, but you keep acting as if it's some sort of
There's no right for a state to exist.
Well, let me go to somebody who's actually in the state of Israel, which is Jonathan Conricus. Jonathan, welcome back to Uncensored. Again, let's just make it clear that what happened was one of the most disgusting attacks in recent times on a group of people, including a Holocaust survivor, a 10-year-old girl, innocent Jews going about celebrating Hanukkah on a beach, on one of the safest beaches imaginable, in the middle of Bondi in Sydney. I've been there. It's a fun, happy, sun-kissed place that will now be forever scarred by what happened there. And they were just intent, this father and son pair of extremists, on killing as many innocent people as they could possibly kill. First of all, we've talked a lot in the last 2 years. What was your reaction on a personal level to what happened?
Yeah, hello again, Piers, and hello to my fellow panel members. I visited Bondi Beach for the first time a few months ago, and it was part of a speaking tour in Australia. I met with Jewish communities in, as you said very correctly, Melbourne and Sydney, and I spoke with politicians in Canberra. And when I interacted with Jews there, my impression was of people who knew that they were living in paradise, which I think modern Australia is. It's a beautiful country that works well. People are nice and friendly and respectful of others. But the Jews there, many of the Jews, not all of them, but many of the Jews told me that, listen, we feel exposed. We are afraid to have any external sign of Jewishness. We are afraid when we send our kids to the Jewish school, and we are concerned about our safety when we're out and about on the streets and when we are at synagogue. And one of the main reasons is because law enforcement, police officers, simply stopped doing their job, and politicians gave tailwind to extremists who were taking over the streets in Australia. And I'll remind everybody watching who's trying to whitewash Islamist terrorism that Palestinians, Hamas supporters, Muslims and other people were out chanting "Gas the Jews" in Sydney by the Opera building on October 8th. And that was before Israel had done anything in retaliation to the atrocities that Hamas perpetrated on October 7. And then those marches were allowed to continue every Sunday in Melbourne, in the local parliament office, and multiple times in various locations in Sydney, and in various Jewish neighborhoods. There have been at least 20 attacks, hate crimes on Jewish locations in Australia. Most, if not all of them, have gone completely unanswered by the Australian authorities. And Jewish people, what they've been saying is, we are exposed. Our blood is now okay to be hunted. And yes, there's no empirical connection that proves that these two Islamists or these ISIS-inspired murderers, the son and father duo that murdered 15 people, that they were directly linked. But I think that the atmosphere matters. I think that when the Australian government goes ahead while Israel is fighting a war against Hamas and says, we are going to put our chips behind Hamas and draw a direct connection between October 7 and Palestinian statehood, and we are going to be virtue signaling that we are oh so benign, progressive and developed, and we are going to put our diplomatic support behind Hamas and the Palestinians, that is an enabler for terrorism. And I remember myself saying it in the Grand Synagogue of Sydney, and I remember speaking about it with Australian officials in Canberra, saying that, my dear fellow members of a democracy, you are creating a very problematic situation that is enabling and legalizing and allowing the killing or the targeting of your citizens. They are first and foremost Australians. They are loyal patriots. They pay their taxes. They're proud of their country. They love their country. And I think my response was, sadly, I was not surprised. This was in the works. This was coming. And I think that Australian authorities have a lot to answer for.
Okay. Sami Hamdi, let me bring you in here. You know, there's a lot of people who think that there are from 1.5 to 2 billion Muslims, depending on what figures you want to believe. But obviously, a massively larger number of Muslims in the world than the 15 million Jews, and that it doesn't take a big percentage of the Muslim population of the world to be radicalized against Jews and want to kill them all, for it to become a very terrifying place quite quickly to be Jewish, the world, and a small place. What do we do about this? I mean, clearly, this father and son, they've been in Australia. They don't appear to have sent too many red flags. The son, apparently a few years ago, hung out with some slightly dodgy people, but it certainly wasn't like he was running around with ISIS flags or anything. The father was part of a shooting club. He seemed to have assimilated pretty well. You know, it's not like it was an obvious thing. It may turn out that there were obvious red flags, but as things look at the moment, it doesn't appear to be glaringly obvious that they've been radicalized. What do we do here? What do you feel is the best way to try and stop this kind of radicalization where people just suddenly decide, I'm going to be ISIS and kill every Jew I can see?
Piers, thanks very much for having me. I think you've tried to bring the discussion to the crux of the issue. I think first and foremost, there's no justification for what happened. It's a heinous and disgusting crime that took place, and my thoughts and prayers go out to the families of the victims themselves. And I think that the question that you're asking is, are the events in Gaza influencing in any way whatsoever the rise in anti-Semitism and indeed the potential for these acts to take place?
Well, that's partly it. I mean, I would say that it's a double-pronged question. One is that, which is the current events of the last 2 years. Have they made it more or less safe to be Jewish around the world? But secondly, this was all going on for a long time before. I mean, ISIS and other groups like it were attacking and targeting Jews for several decades in this century. There's been a rising tide of anti-Semitism and violence against Jews in the last 20-odd years. So it's two-pronged. One, it was going on a long time before this, and has the war in a horrible way been a catalyst for it to be accelerated?
And I think that you've hit the nail on the head, particularly when you bring up ISIS, who killed far more Muslims than any other religion on this earth. Huge numbers of victims that were committed by ISIS. I remember when ISIS used to say that, oh, we're going to go towards Israel and the like, and there was this famous meme that said, okay, but you guys are in Iraq and Syria, Israel is that way, why'd you keep killing all these Muslims over here? The reason why I mention is that when you look at the world as it is today, think about what everybody is seeing on their phones on a daily basis. They're seeing 6-year-old Sidra with her legs blown off, and the blast of the bomb means that her corpse is hanging on the wall inside Gaza itself. And then we have people coming out and saying, this is justified, this is a war, casualties happen in war. We see Hind Rajab, a 6-year-old girl who's in a car desperately calling for help, saying, I'm scared, my family around me are dead. The ambulance comes to rescue her. The Israelis bomb the ambulance, and she dies surrounded by the corpses of her family in the cold. You see Reem, a 5-year-old girl, being hugged by her grandfather, Ruh al-Ruh, the soul of my soul, and everybody is looking at these images one by one, and the destruction. And Shifa Hospital, where a certain ex-IDF spokesman goes in and makes up a video and tries to show that there is some sort of terrorism that is taking place and the like, that somehow justifies what's happening to the Palestinians themselves. And the reality is that, Piers, this does create... I didn't interrupt you. If you could give me some time just to speak. I've been waiting for a while to speak, my dear friend. You will have the ability to talk. You will have the right to talk. But if I could just finish. Piers, the image...
Jonathan, let him finish. Let him finish, please.
Piers, if you allow.
Yeah, but he's lying.
The images...
Okay, you can respond in a moment. Let him finish.
Piers, if you don't mind, just 1 second. Jonathan, you will have time to speak, and you've been here many more times than I have. The reality is that when people are seeing all of these images in America, in Paris, in Berlin, and the like, and they're asking, Piers, they're saying, what crime did that child kill? You were with Tucker Carlson, Piers, the other day, who said to you, what crime did that child commit that she should be killed? What crime did the child, 6-year-old, who's now in Doha, have been evacuated from Gaza, who has 3 limbs blown off and has only 2 fingers left in her hand? What crime did she commit whereby she should have been bombed and been in this particular situation that she finds herself in? And when they turn on Piers Morgan uncensored, and Piers, by the way, I will say, your tweet yesterday was phenomenal when you called him the Bondi hero, trying to cut the crossroads in which people were trying to stoke hatred and the like. But when people come on and they turn on the news and they find justifications for what's happening, they find people saying, listen, it is what it is, you just have to get over it. It's natural for hatred to fester in such hearts that results in a heightened sense of hatred, not just anti-Semitism, but Islamophobia and hate against people around the world. What was magnificent about what Ahmed al-Ahmed did, he rejected that hatred. He rejected that hatred that festered in people's hearts. He said, this is not the world I want to be part of. This is not the world as it should be. I believe in a better world, even if it is these wretched individuals who claim to be Muslim, who are shooting Jews who are innocently celebrating their Hanukkah. I reject a world where this is Muslim versus Jew. I believe in a world where there is genuine humanity, and now that is the video that's going viral. That's the video, Piers, that you spread. That's what you called him, the Bondi hero. He's given hope where the Israelis and the extremists on all religions were decimating that hope. When we see those images of those 80% of Gaza destroyed, Piers, and you're seeing it to the images, and the UN resolutions keep getting vetoed. The ICC says arrest the war criminals, and we receive news that the British government wants to defund ICC because they won't remove the Netanyahu arrest warrant. The ICJ says there is a genocide. Piers, I'll just finish on this point. Piers, we're human. We have hearts. It doesn't matter what color or religion you are. When you see those images, Piers, do they not rip your heart out? Piers, do they not make you weep at what crime did this person commit that justifies this sort of destruction? And I will say this, I will not allow the tragedy of these innocent victims in Bondi Beach to be politicized. We should do them a disservice.
No, but you can actually, you know what? You can weep, as I did over the appalling scenes on October the 7th.
Of course. Piers, of course.
And you can weep at some of the...
And the civilian deaths, all of it condemned.
Let me finish. And you can weep over some of the appalling images of the suffering of the children in Gaza. And you can weep at the appalling images that came out from Bondi Beach. It's all appalling. But Miranda Devine, let me bring you back in here. This has been, for the whole of this century, really since 9/11. You know, I know you spent a lot of time in New York. And I was in New York about a week after 9/11, and I remember how traumatic that was for New Yorkers, for Americans. And then we had the war on terror with all the collateral fallout from that. And now we've got to this dark place where even somewhere like Bondi Beach becomes a massacre site. What's the answer to all this, do you think?
Taxes is feeling unwelcome. Now Taxes is an open door to new TurboTax stores. Meet our experts. They do your taxes, so you can walk out with confidence. Now this is Taxes.
Today's show is sponsored by Oxford Natural, makers of the Optimum Day and Optimum Night all-natural supplements.
No one cares, Piers.
The stories that I'm told by Jewish friends who no longer feel safe in Sydney, which was a safe haven for many Holocaust survivors and now their descendants. And they felt that they had a government that was playing footsies with the anti-Semites. And anti-Semitism is really Jew hatred. And hatred of anybody is terrible. And the government of Australia, because of its own cynical political electoral decisions.
Don't look at me like that. You got a ponytail and a part. We're not doing this right now. All right. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah.
We're here on Kill Tony. That set was not funny.
Austin, you having fun tonight?
Should have went Magic Resist.
Let's go. This city is gorgeous. I mean, you guys are absolutely beautiful. I just left that dump they call Knoxville. Let me tell you guys, that place is dirty. I mean, there's trash and garbage all over the place. Everywhere I go, everywhere I look, the streets are literally riddled with litter. But not here, though. Not in Boston. As a matter of fact, ever since I've shown up, I haven't seen one Puerto Rican. Yeah, I know it's a little insensitive. I might have a couple of screws loose. You know, I'm working on them. I got a therapist now. Come to find out, I got this whole multi-personality schizophrenia thing going on. So, you know, I got that going for me. Hey, that reminds me. If you or a loved one is experiencing some type of existential crisis, perhaps it's time you try Talkspace. Perhaps it's time you should try Talkspace. Talkspace will match you with a licensed therapist within minutes. Don't forget to use promo code KillTony at checkout. Love you guys. Thank you.
All right, soda pop. Jesus fucking Christ.
All right, here we go. Yeah, shut up, cunt. Jesus Christ, this fucking douchebag, he's already got fucking talking shit. I can't. Sam, we're gonna talk ancient occult later. Yeah, for sure. Tony's looking at me. Yeah, I get it. Shut the fuck up. Here we go. All right, so, Tony, you look and sound like if, what is this? I drank way too much tonight. Yeah, for sure. Tony looks and sounds like if Woody Allen fucked Woody Harrelson and shot out Woody from Toy Story. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, Sam likes it. There you go.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable too. In fact, this cunt's got fucking 7 thrones and a golden Rolex on, so we'll go for that. Yeah, don't look at me like that. You got a ponytail and a part. We're not doing this right now. All right. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah. Great. Shouldn't have drank this much. Yeah. Awesome.
All right, I'm gonna stop you there.
So I've recently been on the internet dating and it's been an African-American female that I've been hanging out with, and she's about as Caucasian as they come, and so I introduced her to my family. Just straight down the middle until about
that was close as fuck, actually.
5 days ago. We're making love, and she said, "Ooh," and it was the first time at that moment I realized that there was something deep inside that had not been released yet. But you've woken up a monster since last time, because you motherfuckers on Reddit are unbelievable. The death threats and shit that you gave me, priceless. Worst bucket pool, you've woken up a monster. You have no idea. I wasn't even entertaining comedy until now. This is for you motherfuckers.
He doesn't even tell a joke. He's just ranting.
Oh, Frank, no one even remembers you.
I beg to differ.
No one remembered. We didn't even remember you. You had another chance. I don't even know what happened last time you were on. And you're out here like some kind of gangster rapper. Like, y'all motherfuckers thought you could hold me back. But like, you're like a gangster rapper that didn't rhyme or didn't have a beat or anything, because you didn't really do any jokes this time. Like, you had us at the ooh. We were waiting for a joke. You had like a left jab that was set up, and then nothing. And then you're like, and by the way, to you motherfuckers on Reddit, fuck all y'all. Like, of course they're gonna say that if it went anything like this. Like, you wait till you see what they say this time. That set was not funny.
You shouldn't quit your day job. I'd rather hear bags and boxes.
You left me alone and afraid, and you left me here to deal with this pain, and you left me with a pictureless frame, and all I have to my name are the bags and boxes you left me. Here to do this alone, and you left me. And what I thought was my home, and you left me. And everything is all gone, and all I have to my name.
I love it. It's better than a modern day Will Smith, that's for sure.
And even though I'm an action star, sometimes I'ma act bizarre.
Bags and boxes. And now back to the bucket we go.
Howdy, howdy. Hey, thanks. You know, maybe it's true what they say. Maybe Meemaw's
We'll try
doing
it.
this. Today, my Meemaw said, "You're going out in that jacket? It looks like a giant hairless ball sack." Speaking of ball sacks, do you guys eat at Olive Garden often? Now, folks, the menu at Olive Garden says, "Take a tour of Italy." Wow. Who knew you could take a tour of Italy without ever leaving Beaumont, Texas? Now, folks, it's easy to know if your server at the Olive Garden is into incest when they say things like, "When you're here, right here, your family." Hey, Olive Garden, how the fuck you gonna have unlimited soup and then a limited amount of bathroom stalls? Your Honor, yes, I might have dropped a cannoli in the urinal. Not because I wanted to, but let's just say my tour of Italy took a little detour. You guys like Chewy's Tex-Mex? Well, guess what? They just got their asses bought out by Olive Garden, which means I'm gonna need to freshen up on my Spanish a little bit. Mi amigo, ¿cómo se dice incest waiter?
All right, Aaron West.
That set was not funny.
Hi, everybody. So,
I think I might have saw this one.
My boyfriend, he still goes to the
full
pediatrician.
episode.
This is a true story. I've been with him to the pediatrician twice. And his pediatrician used to see his little baby balls, and now he gets to see where he empties his balls. Ooh.
Oof.
I know, I'm fresh. So I usually like to ask people, hola, if you could be an animal, which animal would you want to be? If I could be an animal, ladies, I want to be a female seahorse, because the female seahorse is...
Hold on to your hats, folks. Training for World Cup in North America has begun. And you would not believe what these guys are up to.
5 years ago, we were forced underground.
What's our contingency plan?
They say the crater is...
Joe! Come out with your hands up, Joe! Don't make us come in!
This business definitely isn't for everybody. You have to be tenacious. You have to be able to read people.
Get down on the floor.
Come on, get on your back. In your stomach. It's not just the thrill of kicking in the door and drilling. I get wholeness from being able to help people.
Video obtained from Akron police shows the tense moments 37-year-old Franklin Frazier was shot while trying to serve an arrest warrant.
Bullet comes down right above my chest, so it didn't hit the vest because he was aiming down 2 centimeters from the heart, shot.
I've been stabbed before. I've been shot at. Thank God they've never hit me.
Everybody knows things go down in Ohio, and this is where we had to document a dangerous and gray area profession, bounty hunting. The man we meet up for the story is Tank the Bounty Hunter, an absolute legend in the space who has his own TV show and a man whose story is filled with controversy, triumph, and tragedy. This Ohio Dream Team is led by Frank Frazier, aka Tank, Tony, a former D1 Ohio State wrestler, and Connor, a guy who's been around this business since he was a kid. These guys take us deep into this risky business where our men run into homes to track down fugitives and bring people to jail. So join us as we shadow these men on their fugitive capture operations. But first, folks, a quick announcement. Big Dog merch is flying off the shelves. People are loving the new off-the-leash design that is available in long sleeve and in short sleeve. This Feast hoodie is always a favorite. We have this sick Underworld tracksuit right here, and these t-shirts are tried and true classics. The Backwoods tee, the Spike shirt, and the Block Party tee. Folks, get what you like at TommyGMcGee.com. I appreciate you, and let's get into this episode.
How's it going?
Time to get some work in.
Oh yeah.
Good. Hey man, I'm the freshest bounty hunter out here, man.
Do you feel like it's like a strategy to look like extra dapper and intimidate people?
You know what? I've always wanted to dress the way I dress because one, the youth connect with me. When they see somebody that, you know, kind of talks like them, looks like them, they can relate to you. And that's how I've been able to get, you know, kids off the street or get them, you know, change their heart. Because when you look like them and talk like them, they'll listen to you.
How are you feeling about this one, Tank?
Feeling good. I'm ready. We can get us one, man. We're going to have some fun. Have some fun.
Oh, we're heading to Wellsville, which is the middle of nowhere of Ohio. Meth town, crack town. You guys will get a nice peek of what rural, eastern, almost Pennsylvania, Ohio is.
Supposedly, he's holed up at the house. He's just been dealing out of the house. But he's got cameras everywhere. I guess cameras on the front and the back.
So what's going through your mind heading into this call?
Right now, I'm just hoping this is a peaceful and an easy grab, hoping they don't give us no issues. Go on, they should be in a few minutes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man. What's going on, man? Nice to meet you, man.
How you feeling?
All right.
Guys, for context, for
I feel
most
like
of
Yuntal's
Tank's
is so
career, he
broken.
looked like this, an absolute brick shit house ready for action. But as we see him for this interview today, this is him just 8 months after getting shot twice and still very much recovering and working to get his body back.
Who's the intel specialist in this group?
Him.
I would say Frank, yeah.
Frank knows how to talk to everybody. Talk to them like they want to be talked to. Like they need to be talked to. What's going on, everybody? My name is Bounty Tank. I am a bail bondsman / bounty hunter / artist, entrepreneur.
How long have you been doing this?
13 years now I've been doing this.
How'd you find your way into this world?
Believe it or not, I was actually in college getting a nursing degree. I graduated with a nursing degree. I have a bachelor's in science. I know it's crazy, yeah. I didn't want to work, do a 9 to 5. I didn't want to be condemned into just, you know, clocking in. So I wanted to be able to still be athletic. So I thought about being a U.S. Marshal. But at the time, there was a hiring freeze with the government. So I kept doing research and I stumbled upon bounty hunting, and they're very similar. Took a class, I got licensed and messed around. Went to a bondsman, he gave me a chance, gave me a case, and I found the person the same day. And it became my niche. I found my niche at an early age.
Bill Bonds! If somebody gonna kick your door, you want it to be me. Will you sign this for me? I sure will, man.
Recently, you had a very crazy moment in your life. Walk me through what happened, what the situation was, and what the fallout has been.
I got a call that night for an individual I was looking for, and the young lady, which I believe was a setup. The house was kind of dark, so we were creeping around the house, trying to actually get visual eyes on him. We're running to the back. He's at the top of there's a porch, so he's on the top porch, standing up. As we're running towards him, he opens up fire, shoots twice,
After 15 years in the field, disaster struck in 2024 when, while serving a warrant, Tank was shot by 18-year-old Amos Coleman. And due to castle law in Ohio, the controversial shooting was ruled to be in self-defense, although Amos did face felony gun charges due to a prior juvenile conviction. Tank took a bullet through the chest that ended up going into his spine, and after 6 months in the hospital and nearly losing his life, Tank returned home to start the process of rebuilding himself. Experts said he'd never walk again, let alone ever return to his job, but Tank is on a mission to prove those experts wrong.
Didn't panic. When I realized I was shot, I just kind of was putting pressure on it. I asked the partner I was with at the time to put pressure on it and called 911. Police came, got on the ambulance, and honestly from there it was a blur. I don't really remember too much.
The first thing that went through my head was the safety of Frank and his well-being and how he was doing. I hope that this doesn't happen to any other agent in the field. I mean, not even ours, but anybody, because it's just a terrible thing. So my name's Connor Loy. I'm a surety bail agent / bounty hunter. I'm only a few years in. Initially took my test at the age of 18. I've been afforded the opportunity or misfortune, I guess, of being bred into it. So my dad's been in this business for my entire life. A very firm belief in the presumption of innocence, second chances. Sometimes third, sometimes fourth.
My name is Tony Sylvester, and I am in the bail bond business.
You're a bounty hunter.
They would say officer of the court or a recovery agent, but colloquially, yes.
How long have you been doing this?
I feel like they're squishy enough for executioners.
And what got you into it?
Well,
collector, whatever.
I had briefly worked for the state, and when I was younger, got out of college, and then there was a bonding company towards Youngstown, and they had a need for recovery people. So I kind of drifted into that by accident.
How much training do you have to do before you go out into the field?
Oh man, I hate to say this and shamefully say this, man. Come to the door, we coming in. You're not gonna come to the door. TV's on.
Joe! Come out with your hands up, Joe! Don't make us come in! Joe! Bail bondsman! Get down on the floor.
Come on, get on your back. In your stomach.
You got one?
I'm sorry, bro.
Well, I'm sorry too. He should have came to the door.
Put your hands closer. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're moving them back. You're too big.
So essentially, when you're arrested, you generally go before a judge, and the judge will set a bond. And that bond can be a signature bond. It could just be, okay, we're going to say that your signature is worth the $5,000 you're going to show up. But if they don't give you that signature, they usually set a monetary amount. Sometimes you can put a deposit up with the court. Other times you have to put up a full cash.
So if someone skips bail, you're on the hook for the entire amount?
Correct.
And the court will collect from you?
Correct. I've assumed the risk. I'm at peace with it. And so I sleep better now than I did years past, because the longer you do something, the more you just come to understand it, and you also come to be comfortable with it.
Joe, I gave you the chance to do this the easy way, man. I know. It isn't like I gave you the benefit of the doubt. Don't mess with my money.
Like I said, they're trying to take my house from my backpack, so I'm just trying to get my dad's house.
I know, and as I said, communication is key, and I've said that all along.
Let's go. We got a little ride on the way. There's no reason to do that.
So is that your first catch since you've been back?
No, this is the second one. We caught one 2 weeks ago. We got a girl. So this is the second one. It's 2 down. I'm two down back in the game. Feeling good, man.
So I was curious about the ability to search someone's home. And there's a legal document you guys have that they sign away their rights in a way?
Well, it varies state to state, but when they agree to the bail contract, essentially what they're saying is it's a continuation of the original imprisonment. Just as the county sheriff does not need a warrant to search one of his cells, so we can enter the home. Think of it like probation. Those rights are granted to us when the bail contract is completed.
At any time?
Yes. They fail to appear, the court issues a warrant, revokes the bond, and so the warrant is there. It's not the active document that triggers our involvement, but it certainly makes things easier.
Guys, you heard that right. When someone signs a bail bond contract, they voluntarily give up certain constitutional protections. They agree that the bail bond company and the bounty hunters they hire can enter their listed residence at any time, day or night, to arrest them if they skip court. This is based on long-standing legal precedent, and most famously, Taylor versus Tainter in 1872, which gives bounty hunters similar liberties to the police. Pretty wild, eh?
And what can a bondsman make in a month?
At this point, it's completely geographic. You could be the best bondsman ever, and if you live in a place where no one's going to jail because it's rural, I mean, your income is only going to be based upon the amount of people they're keeping. We may do 12 bonds, we may do a dozen, which is a very small volume. You go towards Akron or Cleveland, it may be 3 or 4 times that.
She knows me too. Yeah, I have a feeling that mom isn't home. Listen, what I'm gonna do. This girl's pretty nice, so she'll be able to tell me. And this, boys, is part of how it goes.
What are some of the keys to this business the average person might not know about?
I'm gonna say one key to this business that a lot of people don't understand is patience. You have to have a lot of patience in this business. If you don't have patience, you won't last. You won't be a good hunter. You won't catch anybody if you don't have any patience.
This guy's wanted for what again?
This guy's a misdemeanor probation violation. So my hope is, just to shoot, like I said, I only glanced at the application when we were in the office. I don't know anything about the history of the case. It's not one of ours. This is Freeland.
Wild.
Is that this guy, the stakes are low enough, you would think he's still lurking locally. The other guy may be too, but like I said, when I see in giant Sharpie marker moved to Mansfield, that leads my, investigative sense to assume maybe he moved to Mansfield.
We here, Connor? All right, well then I imagine this is the young man we want to talk to.
You want to come speak to me?
I have a feeling you're looking for somebody.
I am.
You need to search the house now?
Would you happen to know who I'm looking for?
Guarantee it's this kid that we haven't seen since March 6th. The day his court date is, he left out of here, said he was going to court, haven't seen him since.
He hasn't been back.
How are you, sir?
He had a stroke, so he don't talk.
Oh, fair enough. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have any particular reason to rouse you.
I was going to say, if you guys want to go and look to make sure we're not lying, more power to you. Just let me let my dogs out, because they are worse than him.
I'll default to him, but I think I have my doubts that you guys are hiding.
Okay, question for you. Would Mom hide him?
Oh, yeah.
Mom would hide him?
Oh, yeah.
You think so?
That's the last person we knew he had contact with, was his mom. But
So I spoke to her recently, and she told me about the same thing.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in months. He hasn't been over here. I haven't talked to him. So she's full of shit.
Yeah. She just doesn't want to, because we've heard through the